Boxing UK with Eddie Hearn. Quite a couple of weeks, Eddie?
Yeah, very quiet as usual, you know, putting the fires out. You're on the last of these interviews. I was supposed to leave about an hour ago, so
I know,
you've been the last one a few times now.
We have,
so,
yeah. Yes, I always say.
Go ahead, grill me.
You know you don't, right?
Grill me all you want.
First things first, we're in Liverpool.
Yeah.
First press conference was the announcement of Hughie Fury.
Yeah.
Took a few by surprise.
Took me by surprise, really. I mean, MTK reached out to me with Peter, and I was quite flattered, really. You know, I thought we've both said our words in the past, and I admire Hughie over the years for the challenges that he's taken. At 22, fighting Joseph Parker. At 23, I think, going to Bulgaria to fight Pulev, and now, quite remarkably, fighting Alexander Povetkin on the Lomachenko-Campbell fight. I mean, it's a huge fight on a huge night of boxing. So I love the fact that he's up for taking the chances, and there's a lot of reward in that fight. You know, if he was to win, he catapults himself to the world scene, and if he was to lose, it's not the end of the world, but I truly believe that him and Peter and the team believe that he's going to beat Povetkin at the O2.
How did it come about, Eddie? Did you reach out to them, or did Team Fury come to you?
They reached out to me, MTK, and you know, the plan was really to have quite a straightforward fight in August, September. And then I just said, look, just to let you know, like, Povetkin's looking for a fight. And he's like, yeah, no, we want that. So, I take my hat off to him. And it's brilliant that you've got young fighters like that looking to take big risks in a division as dangerous as the heavyweight division.
He said he's got a big pair of knackers to take that.
Big pair of nuts. He's got a big pair of nuts, you know, going to Bulgaria to fight Pulev. And I think he's shown, I think people should applaud that. You know, I think people should commend that and say, fucking hell, Hughie Fury's going to fight Povetkin now. So he's game as a bagel, so you've got to give him credit.
Is it a 3-fight deal, Ed?
Yes, yeah.
So, presumably, a win over Povetkin would catapult him right up for the next...
Mate, I mean, if he beats Povetkin, you've got to say he deserves a world title shot. So, again, that's what he's fighting for.
Second press conference, the Liverpool card. Bit of a redemption for some of the fighters on it.
Fowler's got the shot against Brian Rose, which is a great fight, main event. He was supposed to fight Scott Fitzgerald, Brian Rose, and those three sort of working in tandem. For Fowler, it's an absolute must-win. Less pressure on Brian Rose. He's had a great career. He's looking to keep his career alive. But for Fowler, you lose this fight, you're in a bad spot. Yeah. So, good fight. Another fight I'm really looking forward to is Jack Cullen, against John Harding Jr. Great fight for the English title. Kez Ashfaq against Sean Davis. Sean McGoldrick against Thomas Asomba. Lewis Ritson on the card as well. Your boy Robbie Davis Jr. I thought it's a shame they weren't here today because Robbie was up for a bit of banter.
He was, you know? But Lewis is down tomorrow, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. Last time we spoke, you said about October the 19th in Newcastle. Is that any more definite?
I want to do that. I mean, it's up to Lewis and Robbie, but Robbie's already told me he's prepared to come to Newcastle for that fight, and you know, I'd like to try and make it. Fingers crossed they both win on Friday, and we can look towards a big fight in October.
Any news on Lewis's opponent? Because obviously Joe Hughes dropped out.
I have to speak to Paul, our matchmaker, who is finalising an opponent. So obviously disappointing that Joe fought, and disappointed for him. He's a genuine guy. Do you know what I mean? He wanted that fight. He wanted to get back, and now Lewis will make a defence of his WBA title.
Right. Harking back, we said the last time we spoke was at the O2. Before we go into the obvious, how did you find that card?
At the O2?
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Chisora was unbelievable. White Rivas was a great fight. Riakporhe against Willem Smith was a great fight as well. Even Duffield against Aziz was a great fight. So it was a great night. Of course, what followed, and people realise what was going on before the fight as well now, which was a complete nightmare. I mean, that was even more of a nightmare than what's followed. So as a promoter, sometimes you have to deal with that, and you know, it's been a rough week while people have been sort of having to learn the truth about what happened and understand that a process was followed. But for Dillian Whyte, you know, his career, it's hard to say it's in tatters, but sort of publicly in tatters, because people aren't really giving him a chance to either have his say, because he's not allowed to talk yet, or understand that he was cleared to fight.
It's become a bit of a feeding frenzy on social media.
Yeah, it has. I mean, social media is just a nightmare anyway, but you can't really win. Do you know what I mean? So I just keep saying to people, just understand this. He had to have a hearing with UKAD. He had a hearing where he provided evidence in front of experts, was cleared to box. Cleared to box by UKAD, cleared to box by the British Boxing Board of Control, and boxed. So ask yourself, why was he cleared? Now he's got to get the full wrap up with UKAD to come out and say, this is the truth.
Yeah.
And now you've got publicly, you've got to let me get on with it. It's going to be difficult to do because people seem to have already made their minds up.
Yeah, I mean, we were going to leave that last, but we might as well go with it now, Eddie. Can we just go back to the events? So he's passed all the VADA testing.
Yeah, VADA, I mean, look, with Dillian Whyte, he's the guy who insists more than anyone to pay for 30,000 or whatever it is, VADA testing for all his fights, okay? Tested throughout the event with VADA as he always is, and all clear in those tests. In fact, those tests pivotal, really, in the clearance of
That's what it
Dillian Whyte
seems like,
and moving forward. Again, I can't. There's stuff I want to tell you on that, but I'm not allowed to say anything. So, UKAD contacted us as an issue with one of his tests. Again, all this stuff is confidential between Dillian Whyte and the board.
Can I ask a question that I don't think's been? How can two VADA tests be fine and a UKAD test have an adverse result?
Well, depends when those tests were.
Right.
But the good news is, it's good news.
Right.
So again, so that stuff, if he hadn't been VADA tested for this fight, certainly the fight, in my opinion, wouldn't have taken place. And he would have a major issue now. That could end up giving us, again, shut up.
Yeah, but it hinges on the VADA tests.
Well, it's a major part of the process and the science behind proving something. That science was presumably brought forward at the hearing, and he was cleared to fight. So ask yourself, why was he cleared to fight? Well, the common sense answer would be because he provided evidence to suggest he was innocent. So if he's done that, maybe just let him see if he can fully convince you that he's innocent, and if he can't, then he's in a really, really bad spot.
Does the clearance hinge anything on the B test?
Not really. Again, I don't really know, but for me, my understanding is that the B sample shows the same as the original test, like a million times out of a million and one. So again, this is a process that I don't know whether this is addressed at the hearing, but the hearing took place, and if he was suspended, or if he was found that he's not allowed to fight, he wouldn't have been able to fight, and his licence would have been suspended. The only people that suspended him at the moment is WBC, who don't even follow UKAD. So UKAD haven't suspended him. The British Boxing Board of Control haven't suspended him. He could box on Friday, but the WBC have. Same people that took 600 days to give him a mandatory position.
I'm going to ask about that. That released last night, didn't it? Provisional suspension based on
madness. Like, surely you should say, we're going to have the hearing, or hear all the facts, and then once that comes out, we'll decide whether he's mandatory or not. This is, we know he was clear, but we're going to suspend him, and then that's called guilty until proven innocent. It's supposed to be the other way around. Really frustrating, and it's been a shit time.
Going back to fight night, Dillian didn't sleep for a couple of nights before.
I mean, again, no one's going to feel sorry for him at the moment, but it was a nightmare for him. He didn't sleep from Thursday. He was panicking, worrying, and this is like the worst thing you can be called in sport, as far as I'm concerned, is a cheat. Don't matter if you're playing golf and you get caught nudging the ball. Golfers don't do that, right? It's a code that they follow. So he wants to clear his name, and he'll be doing everything he can to make sure that he does.
Does your stance on drug cheats in the sport remain?
Absolutely doesn't change at all. If you are knowingly cheating to gain a physical edge in this sport, you should be banned. Simple. The banning period should be subject to the crime, like in a court of law, and maybe even for life. But certain people that have taken such direct liberties with their cheating, slung straight out. Some people, we know some British fighters, do I believe they were unlucky or ill-advised or unknowledgeable? Yes, but you can't just rely on that all the time. So I would prefer a blanket policy of banning fighters. Good news about UKAD, they can ban fighters and suspend fighters, but it's confidential. So we saw someone say, Oscar Rivas failed a drug test. I don't believe that, by the way, but you wouldn't know if he failed a UKAD test. But you would know if he failed a VADA test. But VADA don't sanction or suspend. So you need to take the good bits of both and put them together.
Yeah. On the Oscar Rivas bit, I know that you've said that he wasn't told because it's confidential.
Well, not just that. He wasn't told because Dillian Whyte was cleared by a panel. So it wasn't that we didn't feel that there was anything to tell him, but kind of like as a promoter, you have a contract with both fighters. If both fighters are cleared to take part in a contest by UKAD, BARDA, British Boxing Board of Control, that fight legally takes place. So it wasn't like, don't tell Oscar Rivas whatever you do. It's like, right, we've got a confidential situation here with a fighter who has a hearing. If he's cleared at that hearing, he's cleared. Oscar, Saturday morning, just to let you know, he had an issue with his drug test, but he's cleared now. Don't worry about it. See you tonight. Firstly, you've broken the confidentiality. 2, you've completely messed his head up. And 3, you've given him the opportunity, if he loses, to blame this information that 1 is confidential and 2 could be defamatory towards Dillian Whyte.
Do you get the moral argument though, Ed, that?
Possibly, yeah, possibly. And I said to Yvonne Michelle last night, if I would have said to Yvonne Michelle on the day of the fight, just to let you know, there was an issue with Dillian Whyte's drug test. He had a full hearing, provided all his evidence, and it's been totally cleared. Everything's fine. Board of Control, no worries. Yeah. I didn't ask him, but would he have told Oscar? You don't. Under that situation, the whole procedure has been properly, legally dealt with by experts.
Yeah.
So is there the argument there's nothing to tell him? He's been cleared to fight. They wouldn't clear him if they felt that he'd been cheating and all this kind of stuff. So again, it's got to come out. I do get the argument, but at the time you have to do what you like. All this stuff I did with advice, legal advice as well. Mm-hmm. It was a bad moment for all of us, but I had to just follow everything by the book to make sure that we did the right thing.
Is relationships okay with Yvonne Michelle?
Yeah, good. Yeah. I think. Look, I don't think he's happy with the process, but I think he's happy with the way that I handled the procedure, which is by the book. You can't ask for anything more than that. And I wanted him to know, and I'd like to work with Oscar Rivas again, and I think we will. But, this was never, that's why I wanted to come out in the first place and tell people the truth, because how it was reported was Matchroom knew, the board knew, and they just sort of brushed it all under the carpet, and no. This was a proper procedure where if he wasn't cleared, the fight was off.
Yeah. You went in that hearing, nothing to do with
that hearing. I don't have nothing to do with the case because it's private and confidential between Dylan and the board and UKAD. I know that now, I don't know what happens with that case and how long it takes. It's got to be dealt with at speed for Dillian Whyte's benefit. Yeah. Every day that passes is another day of inflicting damage to Dillian Whyte.
Yeah. At the press conference, I don't know if you've seen the footage where they've had a lip reader being able to read, and you said that you had a statement prepared. Was that in case the fight was off?
Absolutely, yeah.
Just out of interest, Eddie, what would have happened then if
we would have just pulled the main event and carried on with the show?
Right.
So wouldn't have been great at all. But I didn't feel like the time that they had to deal with this situation and to get the evidence from where they needed to get it, I wasn't overly confident that they could provide the evidence to clear Dillian Whyte to fight. So when that hearing took place, I wasn't overly confident. When I got a phone call after regarding the UKAD decision, the board's decision, NAPD, he's cleared. Okay, fight's on. That was the mentality was, okay, he's cleared. There's no, we've done our jobs. We put it in the hands of the experts, not me going, I don't know what is this, do you understand what I'm saying? So you're the experts, you tell us, should he fight or not? Yes, he's cleared. Great, let's go.
The actual story itself came from Thomas Hauser in Boxing Scene, supposedly from sources. Did he phone you or your team or Team White at any point before putting it out?
Sources can be dangerous, especially Tabasco. But not everything he said was correct. I've had this argument with Boxing Scene, we asked Dillian Whyte for a comment. He can't comment. Yeah. You do know that, don't you? He can't comment on the situation. So a lot of stuff that's been reported has been incorrect, some of which has been taken down, some of which he's got legal action with. But I know who leaked the story, I think.
BARDA?
Quite possibly. Maybe others as well. Some have got agendas, some haven't. So it's just dangerous, isn't it? I'll say about the WBC, you've made the decision based on articles you've read, basically.
As a lot of people have.
Yeah. So deal with what you do know. And this is 100% factual statement. Dillian Whyte produced evidence at a hearing with an independent panel, the National Anti-Doping Panel, where they cleared him to take part in the fight. That's it. Digest that. Why did they do it? So maybe give him the benefit of the doubt to get the final all clear before you make your decisions and start ruining his career when a guy might be innocent.
Does Eddie Hearn think he'll box again?
Yeah, 100%. I know Dillian Whyte, and again, listen, I might be wrong, but I have to tell you, knowing these people, you know, but I feel if he's innocent, which I believe he is, I feel terribly, terribly sorry for him. Not just because what he had to endure before the fight, but what he's had to endure after the fight. It's been brutal, and he'll be here on Friday night.
Fantastic. Yeah, he's with John Harden Jr., isn't he? I was talking to John how training's been the last week and a half, and he said it's been pretty mad up there. Just the last thing on that, Ed, the glove story. At the press conference, Dylan said that an undercard fighter had used his gloves, and then it's come out that actually the gloves were too
Actually
small.
not true. What happened was he selected gloves at the hearing, and then he didn't like the gloves, right? There was another pair of gloves that he was prepared to wear. I think they were Grant XLs that were actually used earlier on in the night. So he had a pair of, I think they were fly gloves, that he requested to the British Boxing Board of Control and to the WBC that he could use. Those gloves were inspected and approved for use. The downside is Yvonne Michelle, Team Rivas didn't see the gloves, but they were approved by the Commission and the WBC. So in an ideal world, they would have seen the gloves. But again, it wasn't like he walked out, changed his gloves, got a new pair out the bag and went in. This is the Commission who inspect, they sign off the gloves, but everything rolled into one magnified that story.
I think
20
so.
times.
Yeah, and I think obviously with the tragedies last week, it's just been the perfect storm for the whole story.
You know, we have to learn from those things. Now, again, talking about testing, was there testing for those fights?
Yeah.
No. Where was the paramedics? Where was the oxygen at ringside? Stuff that the British Boxing Board of Control, I know they get stick, but look at what they're doing. They're the ones that are employing and enforcing random testing for our fighters. They're the ones that are putting oxygen and paramedics at ringside. So not everyone's perfect, but we're all trying.
And where does it end? What
That's
happens
it,
next,
mate.
Ed?
I'm going back to Essex. We'll see you Friday.
Right. Dave Allen, very quickly. He said he's been in touch with you about fighting on.
Yeah, I spoke to him. I mean, I'll support Dave whatever he wants to do. I didn't like some of his comments, you know, about struggling with his health. I don't understand those comments because, I mean, I don't speak to him every day, but he had a great camp. He was in a great place. He looked the part, but he didn't produce on the night. So he's got to get that right. He's got to get his head right. If he wants to come back, we'll 100% support him.
Brilliant. And finally, AJ Ruiz too. I've heard you say that you're looking at a couple of venues. Cardiff still favourite?
Yeah, Cardiff's still favourite. Couple of venues. I don't think we'll go to the States, but next couple of days, Andy Ruiz will be alerted.
Right. Africa?
Possibly.
No clues?
No. It's a good.
Even though we're last?
It's a good shout.
All right. Eddie Hearn, thank you very much for your time.